He was a good person who turned out to be pretty bad evil. Bill Cosby. In 1967, I saw Cosby perform his stand-up live. I idolized Cosby, owned all his albums, and my father took me after I repeatedly pestered him. Cosby was the only entertainer I ever saw who could walk on a stage alone, with nothing but a microphone and a stool, and be completely entertaining for 3 hours. No props, no musical instruments, no backup act. I was such a big fan that I vigorously defended Cosby when the accusations first started coming out, a sin for which I will never be able to atone. Not evil, but Ellen DeGeneres was pretty widely loved, at least from what I could tell as a non-American online, and the allegations about the workplace environment on her show were pretty heinous. Looking back on some of her interviews as well, and the way she treated some of her celebrity guests, it's not entirely a shock. Josh Duggar. He put out this squeaky clean image from the first season of 17 Kids and Counting, where he wouldn't even kiss his fiancée until they were married, and then years later he's in the news for molesting his sisters, cheating on his wife using the Ashley Madison website. He was impacted in the leak of user info, assaulting the woman he cheated with, and now he's in prison for child pornography. Investigators say the stuff they found on his laptop was some of the worst they've ever seen. Guy's a total piece of shit. Jimmy Savile. If you're not from the UK, Google him. I grew up watching Jim'll Fix It. From the mid-70s to turn of the 80s. His outward persona was that of a saint. Starting as a DJ, he spent his entire life running marathons for charities, supporting charities. They estimate he raised 40 to 50 million British pounds that went direct to charities over his lifetime. He donated time to do public safety announcements. Many UK folks on here late 40s onward will remember Clunk Click every trip. He was knighted by the Queen for his contributions to British society. Before he died, 2011, there had been investigations into sexual misconduct, but nothing really came to light in public. They now believe that he was the most prolific sexual predator that Britain has ever experienced, with around 300 potential victims over 60 years, many of them children. Savile was one of those people who I didn't grow up following, but for most of my life, I'm 51, when I heard his name mentioned I had the utmost respect for him. I still remember very clearly when all of his atrocities began to be publicly disclosed. I was disgusted by him and profoundly sad, more than I expected, that this person who I had respected had betrayed that respect. His work for society was, at least originally, genuine if not sincere to his death, but at the same time, he was quietly evil, despicably preying on vulnerable people and kids. People have gone back and thoroughly scrutinized his interviews and autobiographies, and believe there are several components that could be interpreted as him regretting things he's done, trying to admit what these were, and veiled calls for help. I have no sympathy for him, but he must have been a tortured individual. Governor Andrew Cuomo's got to be up there. Positively spawned media coverage, high polls, his Emmy Award-winning televised COVID broadcasts, and his autobiography written and published in the middle of 2020, gave him an impression of goodness until it was revealed the COVID numbers were wrong. His own policies resulted in careless and needless deaths. His brother Chris, who reports for CNN, was caught helping him out, and multiple allegations of sexual misconduct came out. Man went from wheat to chaff all in the course of a few months. Many of you don't know who this person is, but she used to be a news personality on a local station here in Indiana, WTHR Channel 13. When I was a kid, one of our field trips we were allowed to go on often was to go to the time trials down at the Indianapolis 500. And after the practice trials, sometimes the drivers would come up to the gates and sign autographs for the kids. I was in love with this news personality, as little kids would be anyway. I'd go up to get an autograph quote unquote from this news personality. Her name was Patty Spidler, and she was interviewing this race car driver, and since I was taught to be polite and not to talk until people were finished talking, I waited. When they finished talking, I walked up and I said, "Oh, Mrs. Spidler, can I have your autograph?" She says to me, "Go away, kid, you bother me." Now this race car driver that she was interviewing was AJ Foyt, and he had the reputation of being basically an race car driver. But I guess he loved kids, because he said to me, "Come here, sweetheart, I'll give you an autograph," and he signed my autograph book, and then he called over 3 other race car drivers, and they all called signed my autograph book. I walked up and I said, "Oh, Mrs. Spidler, can I have your autograph?" She says to me, "Go away, kid, you bother me." Now this race car driver that she was interviewing was AJ Foyt, and he had the reputation of being basically an race car driver. But I guess he loved kids because he said to me, "Come here, sweetheart, I'll give you an autograph," and he signed my autograph book, and then he called over 3 other race car drivers, and they all signed my autograph book. Benny Hinn, Joel Osteen, Kenneth Copeland, etc. I'm not religious, but all of these televangelists preying on people of faith, acting as if they are the word of God, and taking money by the boatload evil. Pretty sure Jesus wouldn't be too cool with you robbing his people for that mansion, yacht, and private jet. Even as a faithless man, seeing the actions of these so-called religious leaders is pretty fucking disgusting, and I just cannot understand why people fall for their blasphemy. Jackie Chan, Wang Lidan. 2 idols I grew up with but were shitty people off screen. Both cheated on their wives. Chan disowned his extramarital daughter for being gay, pissed off his hometown by saying they have too much freedom, was a terrible father for his son, and he's been supportive of an authoritarian government. Wang, on the hand, has been having multiple affairs with his wife, and kept denying them, while also gaslighting her when she brought the matter up. Gandhi. Dude was a racist, pedophile, who was friends with Mussolini, cheated on his wife constantly, who gets credit for something that didn't even occur. The whole thing just makes me question everything we're taught, and drives me insane, with just how wrong the general population can be. History really is written by the victors. The British didn't leave India because of peace. The British left India because the Indian population started arming themselves, and started threatening to start cutting off heads. Everything about pop culture Gandhi is false. Every single thing. Winston Churchill. He diverts foods away from India during Bengal famine, because he believes India is a beastly people with a beastly religion, and relief efforts sent to India would accomplish little to nothing, as Indians breeding like rabbits. The famine caused 3 million deaths, and pushed for the use of chemical weapons on Iraqi cause. He was strongly in favor of using poison gas against uncivilized tribes. He was also pretty racist against both Asian and African. He simply did not have as much ruling over them. Gary Harris from the Netflix show Cheer was painted as this good orphan kid, adult 19-year-old, who was full of joy and cheered on his fellow teammates, even when didn't make the final team for nationals, but then was placed on the team as the understudy at the last second, and helped his team win nationals. In the meantime, he was sexually exploiting young male children in various ways, and it was all kept hush-hush by the cheer organizations because he was a celebrity. His crimes are numerous and rampant and sick. The XURB1A YouTuber. He's a writer and a philosopher who creates these fantastically wonderful stories that really make you think, and he curses, which is funny. Especially since he's British. He can also tell you all about a variety of different philosophies, why you should kill yourself, why you should be happy to be alive, and why the universe is just plain weird. He was, and still is, an inspiration for my writing because although he is a walking talking piece of shit, that's just him as a person. And personally, you can shit on a person all you want, but the work they produce must be judged on its own quality, and I still think he is a damn good writer. Essentially, one day I was scrolling through YouTube at school. I decided to look him up again to see if he posted anything new. He doesn't post all that often, and found something along the lines of, "The XURB won a court case" at the top. I watched the whole 30-minute video, and it turns out he had sexually assaulted and manipulated a peer of his. Since the detectives couldn't find a proper motive for why he did it, their best guess was that he was trying to figure out if he could convince someone to kill themselves. And he nearly succeeded. She survived and escaped his clutches and is okay. Mentally, I have no idea, and has teamed up with another survivor of similar trauma to create an organization built on fighting this injustice. The only reason XURB1 is still walking around and able to make content like normal is because the offense occurred in 2 separate nations, meaning that things are going incredibly slowly to set up all of the official bureaucracy necessary to proceed. Also, either one or both of the countries involved have incredibly high statistics of just letting rape cases and similar cases just go to the side and never be properly brought to court. I think this guy might be too far out of the mainstream and way too niche for this, but maybe some people will know who he is. British Prime Minister Chamberlain insisted this man would rid the world of godless communism. Canadian Prime Minister Mackenzie King described him as a great and pleasant man who will bring stability to Europe. US President FDR sent him a memo asking him to meet with the American oil industry to get them fired up too. He was marveled as a modern man, a man of science and Times Man of the Year. His name was Adolf Hitler, and it turns out he was a bad guy. Chris Benoit. In professional wrestling, he was probably the biggest underdog story of all time. He was one of the best technical pro wrestlers of all time that really only a few can compare to. Always put in 1000% into every match he competed in, whether it was live TV, non-televised, or pre-taped, and it always showed. He could work with the best of his peers, the worst, rookies, amateurs, you name it, and they always came out looking like a legit performer, because of how much a professional he was in the ring. His style was so natural that he made pro wrestling look like it wasn't predetermined, and that it was a competitive combat sport in the same vein as MMA or boxing. The audience recognized him for this, and so did everyone who worked in the professional wrestling industry. And in an industry that featured wrestling superstars that were normally way over 6 feet tall and 300 plus pounds, as he was about 5'9" and around 220 pounds, he was a testament that through very hard work and determination, anyone can make their dreams come true. He wasn't an Olympic medalist crossover like Kurt Angle or someone who came from a prestigious wrestling family like Eddie Guerrero, who both were also under the typical wrestling superstar standards, and were able to succeed. He was just a guy who followed his dreams and worked really damn hard to accomplish them, and be the very best in the ring, and he made that happen. Truly inspirational in his work ethic, breaking the glass ceiling and paving the way for smaller wrestlers to succeed in an industry that favored larger-than-life wrestlers as their stars. Think Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Ultimate Warrior, The Undertaker, The Rock, etc. A guaranteed future Hall of Famer and a legacy of ultimate undeniable respect, all thrown away because of what he did in the last few hours of his life. As a result, everything he worked hard for over the years was erased, and a once good, respectable family man, who nobody had anything bad to say about, fans and peers alike, was seen anything but that. Amber Heard. She was the face of domestic abuse victims for a long time, until it was revealed that she only got there by lying about Johnny Depp being an abuser, and used her womanhood to perpetuate that lie. No one will believe you because you are a man. I didn't punch you, my hand was open. I hit you. Quit being such a fucking baby. Yes, I hit Johnny. It makes my blood boil that she pretended to be a victim for so long, while belittling the very notion of a male being a domestic abuse victim, making it that much harder for us to be taken seriously. I never got my justice, but I've been holding my breath for over 2 fucking years now to see if Johnny can ever get his.